everybody. Welcome once again to A Rebel Without Applause. I'm back here in my television studio apartment under the sweltering LA sky in the midst of an all-time heat wave. But to cool things off, across the digital divide in Miami is the second installment of my conversation with none other than the great Dr. Allison Thompson, the founder of the Third Ways Volunteer. She's been basically administering aid and love in that order all across the world, most recently, of course, in the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, outside of Odessa, near where the battle is raging. And she's back for a second chat. I'm so honored to have you. I feel like I have a brand new friend. And you've enlightened me and enlightened many in the first installment. So welcome once again to my little podcast, A Rebel Without Applause. Hi there, Allison. How are you?
Hi, thank you very much for having me back. And I'm just the girl next door. I just worked out how to do all this. So anybody can really do what I do.
So just to review, what do you do? I mean, it's not self-evident as we look at you at this moment.
Well, I had a lot of friends in the building of September 11th in the World Trade Center.
Hmm.
So I raced down there on my rollerblades and ended up being under the North Tower and running for my life too, and staying and living in the streets and looking for people and looking for my friends, and really just worked out that everybody's needed in disasters. There's always something to do, like go get the water, or you go do this, you go do that. There's just really something for everybody. Even if you're cleaning out the toilets are needed. So we've just grown this organization since September 11th for the last 20 plus years, and we've just worked out how to do it. It's all about getting in there and helping, and the help gets to the people. You're not stuck in the bureaucracy or red tape. So we
So
go out to all the natural disasters of the world, but also we're doing the man-made disasters as well.
right, and some of the natural disasters are actually man-made. We're finding out in terms of global warming, and we get a very powerful assist. So prior to that fateful, terrible day in September 11th in downtown New York, you had lived a very varied life from nursing in Australia and to the very
Math
interesting
teacher,
career math teacher and show business, movie
actor.
directing. Our paths perhaps may have crossed unknowingly in New York back in those days. Now, and you found a new identity, or no, I wouldn't say new, but it seems like a fresh meaning to your life after 9/11, and you've been able to pursue and stay true um, to that impulse, to that belief ever since then. And you just mentioned you were in New York recently and had an opportunity to revisit Ground Zero. What was that like for you?
You know, I hadn't been back down to that area, the World Trade Center, in so long, and I didn't know what I was going to feel. I was going through all sorts of emotions. First, I wanted to find my friends that had died that day, so went to the waterfalls and I found their names. And then just the whole area's changed. There's high rise, actually all these new high rises and buildings, and it's a stunning area. It's very beautiful, beautiful memorial. I didn't know how it was going to be, and then and when I went across the water to the food court, that was a really strange experience because that's where we put all the bodies and the legs and the arms and the head. So it's the morgue. And just going in there now and seeing progress, and it's a food court and people from all over the world laughing and eating. And I just sat there. It was just a strange moment. I think another strange moment was when I was walking around inside looking at all the different things in the World Trade Center. Seeing yourself up on the wall in the pictures was just, I just wasn't expecting it, and I just kind of got a bit of a shock. It just seemed like another person, but it just brought everything back to that day, just that 9 months, of a city that was working within the city of New York City, and we became very, very close. So it was just a mix of emotions. I'm happy I went back, and the memorial's been done in such a beautiful way, that everyone really should just go there and just see what it's about and take their children just so they can learn from history. We can't give in to terrorism. We learnt that day, and that's been my motto ever since. We're not going to give in to terrorists because they don't win in the end.
Of course, we're now in a different form of terrorism. I consider this nation state terrorism against another nation state,
Yeah.
in Russia, or rather in Ukraine by Russia, it is no less a terroristic endeavor than what happened by some deranged few, in downtown New York. You were there. Well, before I spoke to you, the first time I spoke to you, you'd been there for quite a while, and you had come back to for a little recharge, and then you were
I've been
returned.
back.
You went back to your apartment in Odessa, where it seems to me, from what I can gather, that the focus of this conflict has been sharpened to uh, the battlefields near Kherson and the river on the western side of it. How has it changed since you were there originally?
Um, I mean, the battle's been pretty bloody up in the Donetsk region, but even just over this last week, they've been retreating. The Russians have been retreating from certain areas, so we're taking back a lot of land up there. The main battle right now that really just started about 4 or 5 days ago. I mean, it's always been there, but it's intensifying. Is the battle in Kherson in the southeast. Um, we're based in Odessa, but then we drive up to the front lines with food for the recaptured villages, and but it's being pushed further back. And I just heard news over the last few days that they've recaptured many more villages that have been under Russian control for the last 6 months. So it's very exciting that they're pushing them back. And our team yesterday delivered food to one of those villages, and they were just crying in the arms, and they were just so happy to see someone that wasn't Russian in their area. Very excited. So we are winning in the south, but as I said before, like nobody wins in war. But this was Ukraine land that the Russians just came and stole and took over. So they are being pushed back. So that's good news. There's still it's a bloody battle out there in Kherson, and all the different soldiers we've been training over the last 6 months, they're all out there. So every day they send me photos and videos, and a lot of the medics, sometimes there's only one medic for 200 men. So one of them sent me a bloody picture of blood all over him. He wasn't injured or anything, but just from he had to carry someone half a mile with major injuries. So he had his blood all over his body. So every day, there's people being killed on both sides and people being injured. But there is something positive about we are pushing the Russians back from that area, and they're trying to push into Crimea as well. There's been quite a few rockets going in there.
And so much of these conflicts are, based on just geography. So just a few questions. The drive from Odessa to the area outside of Kherson, or where these villages are, how far is that, or how long is that?
First of all, the real bombing is in Mykolaiv. The Mykolaiv is about 2 hours from Odessa drive.
Hmm.
And so from Mykolaiv up, it's constant bombing in the last 6 months. So it's still the villages between Mykolaiv and Kherson that they've been freeing, even though Mykolaiv gets kids getting bombed, 20 times a day still. Um, they've been pushing them back, and now they're encroaching on getting villages back in the Kherson area. There's a couple of rivers where the Russians have been trapped. They can't really come any more forward, and they can't really get restocked and everything. So there's a real problem up there. But it's a problem also for the Ukrainians going the opposite way.
That river would be the Dnipro, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's the Dnipro.
The Dnipro.
No, I think this is no. The Dnipro goes up to Kyiv. It's another river. I don't know. I have to look it up.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So it's it's these villages that are being reclaimed. Would they qualify as sort of suburbs of Kherson, or are they just out there, sort of
Yeah, it's called Oblast. So it's called Kherson Oblast,
the
which is the
district?
whole area,
The
the district,
district.
like New York City and New York State. So it's a district, and we were with a mayor that had been captured by the Russians for 3 months and tortured, waterboarded, everything. He's 36 years old, and he was given back in a prisoner swap. So he's the one taking us to all these frontline villages, and he's just so beautiful. He's always got a big smile, and I can't believe all the things that happened to him. But he's the one really helping his villages and pushing on and taking us to more frontline villages. One little funny thing is, I didn't have a lot of time because we really need to work hard when we're up there. But he wanted me to meet his family and the old mayor, so he took us back for a quick lunch for half an hour, and then they bring out the vodka. You know how you always hear about the Russians,
Yeah,
is the vodka, and they're doing like a little toast for all the people that are befallen. But I don't drink,
yeah.
so I took quick little ones. But then my bodyguard, he kept switching it out and putting water in it. So I did
Oh,
15 toasts, but I had to keep toasting the water. I wouldn't have got out of there
I
like
go,
it
wow, this lady's made of iron. How the hell she
was
can
water.
really put it down?
So, but that's a tradition there. So, it's kind of strange, but yeah, and so we've been focusing on those villages, and they're just torn apart. The schools are ripped apart, and you see the lunch boxes still on the table. Every house is destroyed. In these villages, there's a lot of World War II bunkers that we go down under when the missiles start landing. Or we were so close to the Russians, it was only about a quarter mile down the road. So the artillery started. The rockets were too. I mean, we were too close for the rockets, but you could hear the artillery. So we went underground, and the women in the village, these are heroines. I met the most amazing babushkas, their grandmas. And when when the 100 tanks were pouring through their villages and destroying everything, they were hiding behind the trees and calling the mayors, the Ukraine mayors, and giving out the positions of where the Russians were, and then quickly running behind other trees. And I got to meet them. And in the World War II shelters, they got what's left of Persian carpets and beds and things, and they put them all in the underground. So it was the most beautiful underground. They even had a little stove cooker. So we brought them up solar panels and things like that. A few used tires for the cars. Yeah, but these grandmas are sticking it in there, and they're little spies themselves. So they've been really helping the cause.
So, as you describe this, the sense I get is that even though this is slogged on, um, and it seems like an interminable struggle, that the morale of the Ukrainian people is still in place, that they're still.
Oh, the morale is strong. They're fighting to the end. This is their rivers and their land. And the Mykolaiv hospital, I mean, they really need help. They're looking for staff for that because they're actually taking a lot of limbs off that they really could have saved, but they're under time constraints and they just have to do that. So, what I was going to say is the town of Mykolaiv, it's there's a lot of spies that live there. So last week they rounded up 400 spies and arrested them in a big swoop. So it's kind of tricky maneuvering around those areas because, on a normal day, 10%, a little bit above 10%, are still supporters of Putin and Russia. So you have to be careful because when we have a van, we try to just go quick and we have to hide under trees and park under trees because the drones are always flying in that area and they can give you away. And even if you pass just a farmer in the street, if they're a spy on the other side, they'll quickly, call ahead whoever that they're communicating with. So still a very dicey situation.
So the cell networks are still working on both sides.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. The
people.
communications is still working. We tried, just to use Signal, which is encrypted, but I mean, they're telling me these days, even if you turn your cell phone completely off, there's this they can still read your SIM card somehow, or even they can read when there's a cluster of SIM cards together. So, say I was with a bunch of Americans in a van, it would come up these SIM cards that these are all American SIM cards in that spot. So they can still attack, like a missile or something, can still target the spots on the screen. So it's hard to know what works or not, but the communications for us are good, but the soldiers are having a real hard time in the front. They're not sure if it's friendly fire, if they're shooting at any of their own. I've been buying them little tiny cell phones so they could do some texts between, but there's a real problem with communications up the front line in that way. I'm not talking about Facebook and your cell phone working, but communications between the soldiers.
Now, when we first spoke, you mentioned that a lot of the work was training some of these civilians who are turning into soldiers in the fundamentals of first aid and the use of tourniquets and all this stuff. Has your work, as this population has become more, I guess, adapted or immersed in this war, has the third work of the third wave volunteers changed or morphed or adapted in any ways?
We're still training and we're still delivering food for the front lines, but instead of me having to bring people over, what usually happens in a disaster, we have to, 6 months or whatever, we have to release it back to the locals. So what I'm doing is I get them money, and then they go to the supermarket to get all the food, and then they give me receipts and then the photos and the videos. So we're fully Ukrainian run now, with a really good group of women and men who we've kind of trained over the last 6 months of how to do this. So we're still fully operational in the sense that we're still raising money and we're still getting them help, because so much help is needed. But it's good that we can have a local team that's representing us in the front. Yeah.
So for those people out there that want to contribute to your good work, I'm proud to say I did make a donation. I hope it was spent and used.
Yes, every cent is used for that to buy that food from in the big supermarkets in Odessa for the front line. So that's still an operation going on every week.
And so that's would be
Oh,
thirdwavevolunteers.com. And there's a very easy portal there. I know because I used it to make a donation and to keep this important aid work going.
because there's no more donations anymore. It's an algorithm that happens in all disasters. They race it in the first weeks and then it dribbles off. And usually by about now, it comes to a complete stop, because the news of the war goes on to other areas from Pakistan with the floods and all other disasters. So it just gets left behind. But this war's not ending anytime soon, and there's real suffering going on of really good people.
Well, we're always competing with our very limited attention spans. We only have so much bandwidth, and there's so much coming at us from all angles, as you say. But this is not a struggle that in any way is minor. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
this is a struggle of it's a clash of worldviews, and of course it's a humanitarian disaster. But I feel like the fate of Europe and our own democracy, these things are being contested right now in a real place, and be counted. And the work you're doing is incredible. So the
And
least.
disinformation, that is a real threat to the whole world. But you've seen what it's done here in America, and it's a real threat to democracy. There are millions of people that are just believing blatant lies right now in America, and they really believe all their soul. And all that disinformation came from Putin. It came directly from him. So it's a real problem. I was looking online today, and there was all these Russian people celebrating and talking about how the sanctions haven't disturbed them at all, and they really believe that they're wiping out the Nazis in Ukraine and all of these things. And I'm like, wow, we can't have that happen here. We have to fight against that so bad. Otherwise, everything's lost.
We have an obligation to truth, and
Yeah.
that's clearly Russia, which has made incredible contributions to world culture. I mean, all you have to do is look at the music and the literature and the theater. But on the other hand, it's a country clearly in darkness right now. And I'm curious to know, like something like this little conversation that we're having. Can people get YouTube in Russia? Do you know?
No, there's everything's blocked. But they're saying the higher percentage of people that believe there is a war and are against it are 40 years old and under. So the younger ones, somehow they're connected out there with the world, but it's all the older ones that really only have one channel and they follow whatever Putin says, and all this disinformation and that. But I don't have the exact answer for that, but I know that they've shut down. I was reading about it today, about a large percentage of the internet. There's only
Now,
things you have to have a certain code to get on, and I think you have to belong to the party and be proven that you're a Putin follower. I don't know. This certain people can get on, and I don't know. It's a mess.
yeah. I said this in our first show because when this first occurred, all I could think about was in World War One, when the Tsar's army famously turned around, refused to fight the Germans, and voted with their feet, walked back, and actually there was a revolution
Oh,
called the Russian Revolution. And I'm curious to what extent that might be happening amongst the Russian soldiers
yes.
now.
It is. And the first soldiers that all came through were the professionals from Russia, and then they're thrown in with all the young kids, like the 18-year-olds. But a lot of those have been injured. So now they're really sending through from Russia a lot of the ones that haven't been trained, and a lot of the young ones, and then a lot of the young ones really are defecting to this to the Ukraine side, because they can't go back. As I was saying, my soldier friends have been capturing many Russians, and they take the lieutenants and the captains and everybody, but the young kids, they send them back. They take their uniform off and they take their weapons, but they can't go back because they're being shot. They can't go back. They can't retreat. So they're actually coming back and switching sides. And that's happening every day. There's so many of the younger ones that have switched sides.
One of the questions I have, I mean, I don't like to get totally into the intricacies of battle, but on any given day, how close is a Ukrainian soldier from a Russian soldier? Can they see each other, or is this being
Oh
contested over
yeah,
miles?
yeah, it's just hundreds of yards. um,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean they're hiding all around, and sometimes it's even crossed over closer, and there's Ukrainians further up, but it's really close, and the bombing just doesn't stop. But they are running out of ammunition and ways to restock down in the southeast.
Yeah, what I read today or yesterday is that the Russians have now solicited North Korea for
Wow.
their artillery shells, which sounds like
Oh,
desperation.
I was going to mention something. So it seems all the professionals have come to the battle. We've got the Georgians on the Ukraine side in the south. The Chechnyans are the worst ones that do the raping and the cutting off limbs and things. But half the Chechnyans are also now on the Ukraine side. So there's really bad Chechnyans on both sides. But there's also something we've seen. I just don't know how to verify it or what, but going past an area with this building, and it recognized symbols, and it's ISIS. But they said that ISIS is fighting on our side, on the Ukraine side, because they didn't forgive the Russian
From
because
Syrian
of
adventurers.
Afghanistan. And
Oh,
yeah, Afghanistan, from all those years, Russia and Afghanistan. So I don't
well,
know, but there's from every country of the world fighting on different sides, and the harshest ones are the ones that are just there for the money, that have no soul. So it's not those 18-year-old soldiers that are coming across and switching side because they've seen what's really going on. It's these ones that are just there for the money and they don't care. They're killing machines.
well, I mean,
It's
Chechnya was
true.
victimized by Putin some decades ago, so there must be tremendous anti-Russian sentiment, even though there's a lot of pro-Russian
Yeah,
Chechnyan fighters. It sounds like a very confused sort of jigsaw puzzle of
it is very confusing.
alliances and nationalities.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of US soldiers there, veterans,
Hmm.
um, who have disclosed to me that they're there on a suicide mission, that they're there to die for Ukraine because they don't have much going on in their lives and they could never really settle back into society back in Britain and back in Australia or back in the States. So they've pretty much said that they're there on mission, a suicide mission, they're there to die, which is really sad.
So old trauma being revisited by new trauma, and it just goes. It's awful to hear that because basically war is a soul destroying endeavor, and
Yeah.
even if you get out of it with all your limbs, it sounds like so many are just damaged, you
Yeah.
know.
And then there's the ones there that are kind of tourists and they're drinking a lot and playing up a lot. And a few of them that I met in the early days, their contracts were ripped up and they were sent out of the country because they have enough to deal with. The Ukraine has enough to deal with than people just coming in being tourists and running around with guns or whatever. So there's just a lot of problems going on in there internally. But the spirit is high, and it really feels like we're taking back land that was Ukrainian land.
What's life like on the streets of Odessa, which is apparently quite a beautiful place?
Oh, it's beautiful, and the actual opera house just opened back up, and I wanted to go in and try to see if I could see a show or something, and then nothing was around, but it was open, and then I get back to Miami, and the Odessa Orchestra are going to be playing down the road in a few weeks. I was like, that's so weird. Uh,
Here in America.
yeah, in America, down in Coral Gables.
Oh my
So
God.
I want to go see that. but people are just going about their lives. The restaurants are open, and a lot of the refugees, well, there's still 7+ million that are out, and then 12 million displaced, with the ones that have left and the ones within country. But a lot of families are coming back in, at least to Odessa. Haven't had a rocket over there in a while because we're pushing further back to Kherson. They can't reach as far, but it's Odessa is thriving right now, and people are going out their business. When you think of how many people have died on the front lines, like the numbers are never accurate, the same as disasters, but there's so many women and children without a father right now, without a father or a husband. So that's really tragic. Um,
So you're in Florida now, and I know you have some family things to attend to. Just looking forward into the future, what are your plans in terms of returning and for the third wave volunteer?
we have a really good team on the ground now, so I'll pop in and out probably once a month just to keep a handle on it, and we've developed beautiful friendships and so much going on there. So we'll still keep a handle on that. But it's hurricane season right now too in America, and any day now, the big one always hits between September and November, end of November. So I'm not looking forward to that. I'm just praying for a good hurricane season, that it's low and nothing. But we have to be prepared. So we're preparing all our rescue teams for that journey.
And we are in the midst here in California of it's just
Bushfire.
incessant heat. I'm sitting here. I turned off my fan so the audio would be good, but I'm paying the price as the sweat twinkle, drips down the side of my head.
It's so
Um,
hot. And what about behind you, the camel with the surfboard? What's that story? That's
oh well, that's it. All sort of stems from the larger theme of me trying to live the lead role in my own life, having been consigned to small roles in Hollywood. I want to make my real life the big roles. So some years back, actually, it was right before the COVID curtain dropped. I had the opportunity to visit in Morocco, which is one of the great places on
oh,
earth.
it's
It's
amazing.
on the edge of the Sahara, facing Europe, Tangiers,
Yeah.
Marrakech, and this
Marrakesh.
incredible Atlantic coastline, which, for those of us that are wave riders, offers a number of magic carpet rides on the Atlantic western shore of Africa, there within the boundaries of Morocco. And so I was outside of Essaouira, which is an incredible town, which, as I mentioned, famously is where Orson Welles filmed Othello. And I was there enjoying this incredible medieval city and surfing. And so I was out there, and there were the camels on the beach, and my inner David Lean just completely overtook me. I am going to be Bill of Arabia, and so I sort of directed and starred in a little photo shoot. We grabbed a camel. I had the surfboard. I was surfing, and just with my phone, I said, let's do this." So that's the keeper shot. That's the cover photo of Bill of Arabia with the surfboard. So
Bill
it's
of Arabia. That
yeah.
reminds me, I was in Marrakesh in 2016. I was representing Haiti, the Haiti Ministry of Environment at COP22, the United Nations meeting. And because of that experience, Haiti ratified the Paris Agreement right when the US pulled out of it. Like Haiti was one of the very last countries. So it was so shocking for one of the lead countries to pull out, because it's about 80, a very high percentage of 80 something people in America really believe in climate change and the environment and everything that's going on with these extreme heat and extreme climates around the world. And here is Haiti, one of the last ones joining, and the US dropped it. And that was just so heartbreaking.
Maybe there'll
So
be like divine retribution, where there'll be some sort of mini the storm season that you're talking about, which is definitely been amped and increased by
growing.
global warming, will find its way right into the foyer of Mar-a-Lago as a fitting a fitting
The thing
retribution.
is, it's just a joke because he believes in climate change. If you look back and you Google the New York Times, I'm not sure what year it came out, he had a full page ad with him and a couple of other leaders believing in climate change, blah, blah, blah. And then years later, oh no, I don't believe in it. He was, it's
Yeah,
just a walking
yeah. There
juxtaposition.
is no.
North of a Democrat his whole life. So he's not really a Democrat or a Republican. He's his own, in his own movie.
He's in his own cult.
It's a
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
movie.
He's in his own cult of one. But
Yeah.
clearly, as president, he withdrew from these
Uh-huh.
important arrangements. So,
Yeah.
wow. Well, Allison, you look great as always, and I want to extend an invitation to one and all to contribute, to make a small difference in a place where a big difference is being arbitrated. By that I mean in Ukraine. And the Third Wave's volunteers.com, which is Dr. Allison Thompson's creation and life work and gives meaning to her life and many others, needs dollars. These things don't just happen by themselves, and that money ends up as food and aid and uh,
It all goes. We don't have salaries or anything, so it all gets sent over. I have the receipts, I show the videos and the photos. And the main thing is people are really, really happy on the other end. They're just so thankful. But what I wanted to end with the secret to happiness of life, and I
tell me,
really, but
tell me. I,
no, I really believe it's service to others. I don't know, it just fills you hard and you're up in the inside and it spills over into all your other relationships, your work or personal. And so that's the secret to life. So if everybody could join in a little way, I'm not saying to go over to the war, but there's so much going on in this country that needs help as well. So secret to happiness is service to others.
service to others, which is very much out of the tradition of Gandhi and Martin Luther King. All these ideas and Jesus, they have. It's not just staring at your navel. It's a way to turn spirituality into action, and you're living that truth. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Well, I can't top the last thought. So I think it's best to wish you the best going forward. And, this ongoing struggle, the final chapter is not written, but I
Yeah.
would say, just as a closing thought, do you feel more confident and hopeful than you did when we first spoke a couple months ago?
Oh, absolutely. I feel that there's real hope and there's really great spirit in Ukraine. The world's love and all the help, you really see it and you really feel it. And we are pushing back the Russians back to their country. And we're just going to keep going until it's done. But we can't be lazy because they're not going to stop. And I know that they want to keep coming in because they came in 2014. So it's a tricky situation.
Endurance matters on all levels with these
Yes.
struggles. So, well, Allison, just thanks again. And, as events keep unfolding, I'm anxious to hear about them, as is the people that watch and listen to this. And please stay safe and always use your best judgment, because you matter too. And I'll just stick with me here. But to the rest of you, I'm going to say what I always say, and that's namaste, shalom, and aloha. By that I mean namashaloha. Till next time, see ya.
Yeah.